The Dell XPS 720 H2C is finally up and running. But the question is, can it run Crysis? Hello and welcome to another episode of Rapidly Aging Tech. Today we're going to be completing, at least for the most part, the Dell XPS 720 series, which has been ongoing because of the many hiccups that it has had. So, what's happened, and why aren't we starting with the case open, as has been the case for a while now? Well, I figured that you didn't want to see me digging through the case again, so I want to tell you what had happened. As you may recall, the hiccup we were running into in the last episode was trying to get two of these to work. The NVIDIA 7950X GX2s in quad SLI, because each one is a double card. And try as I may, try as I might, I wasn't able to get it to work. And there were some helpful comments, people just saying, well, just pull out all the other cards and try it that way, do this, do that. And off camera, I tried all that. Older drivers, all the cards pulled out, not just the PCI Express USB 3.0 card, but also the standard PCI cards. I pulled everything out. Even tried doing one video card at a time, and could not get it to work. I suspect that one of them may have a little bit of a problem, because when I had one in the primary slot by itself and then added in the second one, it was having a hard time even seeing that the other card was there. But when I reversed it, that card happily saw both of them, but the driver crashed trying to link all four GPUs together. However, each individual card, it could happily SLI itself. So the two onboard GPUs would happily link together without issue. So I do believe I will have a use for at least one of these cards in another build. So what was I going to do next? Well, the XPS 700 and 710 were really the ones that came with the quad SLI option. The 720 came with an option for dual 8800 GTXs. But rather than go fully era specific, I decided to turn it up a notch. So I got two of these, the NVIDIA GeForce 9800 GTX Pluses, originally two by BFG. And look at that shroud. You know, that's kind of an interesting picture on there. The problem with using two of these guys was that this one, look at the bottom of the PCI Express slot. The contacts have been damaged, and damaged to the point where the computer, realized that there was a problem with it and would not allow this card to function. If you know of a way to repair that damage on the contact pads, I'm not sure. And there we go, focus is working. Go ahead and tell me, but I suspect it's probably not worth it, so I may end up doing a teardown of this card just so you can see it. So in response, I tried to find another of the same model, and had to go with one by PNY. It has more of an orangish color to its picture on shroud, but otherwise is pretty well identical. And I want to say that the BFG one is clocked higher, and I will show you the computer, the statistics on the computer, the stats, the specs, that's the word. So we do have more or less two of these running in SLI, and that is pretty good, I think. That this machine is higher than would have you probably come from the factory. And I also discovered something else. I discovered, looking on the Dell website when trying to dial in a few things, is that the XPS 720 was sold with a few variations, as you can expect, using the highest processor when it was first released, the 6800, which is what I have in there, the QX 6800. They offered it at stock, bin plus 1, bin plus 2, and bin plus 3. Bin plus 3 is a factory overclock, putting this chip, which is usually 293 gigahertz, something like that, to 373, something like that. That's quite the overclock. And more or less, all Dell did is in the BIOS, as you remember from the last few videos, whenever you try to overclock a chip out in the BIOS, all it does is bump up the multiplier and bump up the voltage to a predetermined level. You don't have any fine control. You have to use the NVIDIA N tool, which crashes and doesn't work very well on at least Windows 7. I'm not sure if Vista or XP would be better on, which is what this machine would have come with. One of those two. This particular one came with XP. So that gave me some confidence to try to dial things up a little bit. Putting it at bin plus 3 would have been a voltage of 1.6 volts, and I didn't want to do that. So I put it at bin plus 2, which is 1.52 volts, and it puts the clock speed at 3.46, so right under 3.5. It has passed prime 95. The temperatures have been good enough. I'm a little warm, but still within safe levels. It's been stable otherwise, so we have a working system. I also put all the expansion cards back in except for the parallel port card because it seemed like the machine for some reason wasn't really recognizing it. When I tried to reinstall the driver, it didn't seem to see a card was there, so I just yanked it out. So that just leaves us to putting this machine through a few paces. Alright, so right now we're in the NVIDIA control panel, probably at one point in time called the Forceware control panel. And we are looking at the two different cards. I believe the first one should be the BFG, because the BFG is in the primary slot. And that is, if that's correct, it gives us the specifications for it. 128 CUDA cores, which is a fairly modern thing for NVIDIA, I think starting in about the 8800, maybe before. Core clock of 760 megahertz. Shader clock, so this would be the I can't remember one of the difference between cores and shaders. I think architecture has changed a bit since then. I don't remember. I haven't paid much attention to graphics architecture, but that's at 1890 megahertz. And we have memory speed of 2250 megahertz. Memory, the interface bus is 256-bit, and total graphics. Oh, total available. That's system memory you can use. So the card itself has 512 megabytes of GDDR3. The second card is it is a plus model, so it is overclocked, but it's overclocked lighter. It's 738 megahertz on the core as opposed to 760, and 1836 on the shader versus 1890, and the memory is a bit slower, 2200 versus 2250. Otherwise, pretty close cards. Can't really complain. And it looks like these are DX11 capable, which is handy. So now we just need to give it a bit of a run. So we have an overclocked QX6800 running at 3.46 gigahertz. We have dual GeForce 9800 GTX Pluses running in SLI. So let's see how well this thing plays a couple games. The first one we're going to do is going to be World of Warships, which has some instabilities going on. I don't think it's the overclock. It might be that the graphics cards are old. Even turning off SLI, as the tech support person suggested, didn't seem to help. I'm also starting to think that one of the problems might be the sound card, the Audigy 2ZS. Now, it's an odd thought, but the only reason I say that is because my XP machine, playing World of Warships, had similar crashes. It is running a much newer graphics card, GTX 750, a Ti, and it's running the Q9650 processor running at 3 gigahertz, the non-extreme version, running XP. I figured, okay, World of Warships technically supports XP, but maybe it really doesn't like XP. So I just kind of wrote that off after, working with the support folks on, we'll try this, try that. Couldn't quite get it to work. This machine is doing something similar, and it's running Windows 7, which is definitely supported. It's running a similar a processor of a similar architecture, but it's supported and it works. Graphics card is a bit older, but okay, whatever. The sound card is the only thing that's really the same between them that you think would have any problems. So maybe that's an issue, maybe I need to switch that out. If you have any suggestions for a better PCI sound card, feel free to put them in the suggestions below, because this only has free PCI slots now. But anyway, into the World of Warships, just to kind of see what the settings are and how it performs. Alright, we are in World of Warships in the graphics settings, so you can get an idea of where we're at. So we have anti-aliasing, FXAA on high, oddly enough. We have some things on high, some things on medium, some high, some far. So kind of a mix between medium and high. There's some very high settings which we have left alone. Is using DX11, excuse me. So that's kind of the idea, and running at a resolution of, well, windowed 1280 by 1024, so 1280 by 953. That is the settings. So now we'll go into a battle. All right, we are just doing a match against bots just to make it, a bit quicker and not last as long, and I probably won't make you sit through the whole battle. But if you look up into the upper corner here, you'll see the frames per second sitting more or less in the up to 50, kind of in the 40s to 50s, with all the rain effects and everything going on. So it should be fairly playable. Right now, I'm in the Ishizuchi, which is just it's a premium Japanese battleship. But the frames per second, which I think are still on the camera, are hitting at 47 right now. So the game is pretty playable. However, when we get closer, there will be some slowdowns. I'll pull you back in once we're there. Just wanted to pull up Task Manager briefly to show that World of Warships probably needs some more optimization as far as CPU usage. As you can see, one core is doing a whole ton of work, and the other ones are just doing a little bit here and there. So that's something that they need to work on a bit. Otherwise, I think this machine would perform even better. And the frames per second have dropped into more like in the lower 40s, mid 30s. Well, we're getting into some combat now, and that Dane is going to try to do bad things to me if it's paying attention. I don't know if it is or not. Alright, well, I made his day a little bit ruined. And I'm on fire. Oh, one of my turrets didn't fire yet. Well, I guess he doesn't have torpedoes. Ah, but he did. Goodbye. I wish I had something to capture the video a little better when I'm on a different computer. Oh, and he's within secondary range. And they're aimed by stormtroopers, so if you're wondering why there's a lot of splashes in the water, that's why. Oh, he's gonna get me. And there I went. Oh, and FPS dropped down into 1112 for those explosions and then came back. So there we go. That's World of Warships. So before we go into the main event, which is Crysis, I actually bought this game new recently. I never owned Crysis. I just remember it being the game of testing, the game that everyone used as a benchmark. And here are, if you don't know, here are the system requirements. I kept the sticker just because of what this game is. It's only calling for, and this seems to be back when they just said sort of minimums, more or less. Pentium 4 of 2.8 gigahertz or faster. 3.2 if you're on Vista. AMD Athlon or faster. 2800, 32 plus for Vista, or a Core 2, fairly low clocked Core 2, and then 2.2 gigahertz for Vista. Vista always needed more horsepower. A gig of RAM, or 1.5 for Vista. Only 12 gigs or so of space. Uses DirectX 9C, but I think it can use 10. And then as far as graphics card, the 9800 Pro, or the X800. So these graphics cards outclass those, and then or GeForce 6800 GT or greater outclasses those by a lot. So the system requirements on paper do not seem to be that demanding for good old Crysis. Well, apparently they were filthy liars, or those are just the bare minimum to make it even work. Inside was an advertisement. Well, a sort of, you could win these Alienware computers, the Alienware Area 51, 7500. Those are kind of the Alienware cases that I remember. I remember that kind of style. So I think I remember them being slightly less bubbly. So, what's inside one of those machines that you could win that would be Crysis approved? So, has a bunch of lighting in its fancy chassis, 1000 watt power supply, which is also 1000 watt in this machine, dual graphics processors, 8800 GTSs, and they have 350 megabytes of video RAM. Well, this outclasses those. A Core 2 Extreme 6850 at 3 gigahertz. So this is a lower chip than that. It's just the front side bus, really, what it comes down to. 2 gigs of DDR2 at 800 megahertz. Well, we've beaten that, and we're using some pretty high quality RAM too. 250 gigabyte SATA hard drive. We're also beating that because, oh, I forgot to mention this. My brother for Christmas gave me a solid state drive. So its boot drive is a 500 gigabyte Samsung, and the storage drive, which has Crysis on it, is the 500 gigabyte Velociraptor. There you go. Higher definition 7.1 performance audio is probably onboard audio and keyboard and whatnot. So, well, this would be a nice thing to win. Too bad it ended in February 2008. Also has an advertisement for a discount for Logitech Who's Its and What's Its. So kind of an obnoxious looking keyboard, in my opinion, though. What is that status indicator on there? That's interesting. And a big old sound system and a laser mouse. The G series, early G series stuff. So that's what it comes with. So now we're going to put in the game, and we're going to pick up where I last saved so I can fumble around awfully so you can see how Crysis performs. Alright, we are in Crysis. We are in the system settings in the graphics area. And as you can see, we have everything on very high. The only thing that's not really on is anti-aliasing. That's been shut off. Visually, it didn't seem to make much of a difference, but you start putting it on 8x and you're going to make the game chug. Anti-aliasing still today is, even if you want to, if something's running fine and you want to see if you can break it, just keep cranking that up until it stops working well. That's off, full screen, 1280 by 1024. So we are good to go. So now we're going to load a game here. So where we're leaving off is in Crysis. I mean, spoiler alerts, I guess. You end up finding a scientist in a village, and then North Korea starts sending in a few tanks we need to take care of. Apparently, there's some rocket launchers to find to take them out. We'll see. So here we go. All right. Here we go. It's a little choppy to begin with, and here we go. So, oh, that's a bad guy. Well, there we go. So there should be a rocket launcher somewhere around here. Is that it? Nope. Let's just hope they ignore me. Water bottles. Oh, I'll take those, thank you. So there's no rocket launchers up there, at least that I saw. Oh, that's not good. As you can see, it has a few slowdowns. But, oh, there we go. Let's take that. So now, get back inside. All right, so we need to get behind it. I know that's the best spot. Checkpoint saved. That's also out of ammo. I have to go back in there to get more. Oh. Well, we're in a pickle, aren't we? Time to turn on the sneaky stuff. Okay, we need to get... Is that tank still up and running? Whoop! Back inside. We'll hide by the toilet. Oh, that's not the right room. Ah, here we go. So I'm not very good at these sorts of things, as you can probably tell. Tank is out there. Evasive action, nope. Here you go. That wasn't good. Oh, he's already dead. All right. Oh, we got both the tanks dead now. So now we've won. We're gonna save that game. All right, we're back at the desktop. Task Manager was kind of all over the place. And it sounds like the fans have ramped up. CPU temperatures are okay. Must be probably the graphics card temperatures. Yep, like 64, 63. So they, of course, were being used well. I think this game did scale decently with SLI. But as you can tell, it still didn't run perfectly, and we didn't have anti-aliasing up at all. So there's still room for improvement. Anyway, that's been this episode of Rapidly Aging Tech. Hope you enjoy seeing 2 of these in action. And I will talk to you later. The XPS is alive.